Hey, how's it going everybody? Chanwin26 here, and today I'm going to be covering a couple of battles that I played earlier this morning. This will be a continuation from where I left off in my last video, so if you didn't see that video, I definitely recommend you check it out. I'll leave the link in the description below. But yesterday, I had a really good run in GBL. I was able to climb over 200 points in 5 sets, using the team of Shadow Swampert lead, Dragonite, and Empoleon. I went from 2500s to 2790 by the end of the day, meaning I got promoted from veteran to expert. And today I was able to carry that momentum forward because my very first set of the day, which is what I'm about to show you, I went 5-0 to reach another new season high of 2863. That being said, my overall experience with GBL today was pretty lackluster. It was pretty poor overall. And the reason I say that is because it was very laggy today. There was lots of desync, and there were a lot of situations where the game would buffer for a few moments and then all the fast moves would catch up at once. And it's really hard to keep track of your opponent's energy that way when situations like that occur. And it's neither player's fault, these are long existing problems, but I really do hope Niantic rectifies them in the future. But considering we've been dealing with them for like 7 seasons, I'm not holding my breath. But yeah, let's get into my battles today and let's see how I did. So my very first opponent is against Zimikid. As you can see, they are a former battle legend, so they are definitely a good player. My Shadow Swampert into a Talonflame, so very favorable matchup for myself. I expect them to swap out immediately, and they safe swap into a Sirfetch'd. So I'm going to pause the battle right here. There are 2 ways I can play this out, and honestly either way is fine, it's just that I don't know what their third Pokemon is, so there's no right way to approach the situation. The first way is, when they bring in Sirfetch'd, I can bring in my Dragonite immediately. The second way is, I can chip and dip with the Swampert. So it takes 5 Mud Shots to get to the Hydro Cannon, and it takes them 5 counters to get to the Leaf Blade, assuming they have it. If we throw immediately, we will CMP tie. The Sirfetch'd will win the CMP because they have a higher attack, but as long as I don't give any extra counters when I throw my charge move, I will outpace them to the second charge move because it only takes 4 Mud Shots to get to the second Hydro Cannon. So that's how I choose to play it out. I plan to throw 2 Hydro Cannons and then either swap or let my Swampert go. So as you can see, they threw immediately after the 5th counter, so this is most likely a Leaf Blade. I need to shield because it will instantly delete my Swampert if I don't. They didn't get an extra counter, meaning that I will outpace them to the Hydro Cannon. So I get the first shield, which is really good. So they need 1 more counter for another Leaf Blade. I throw the Hydro Cannon, and I get their shield, which is really good. I was hoping to catch a Leaf Blade on this swap, but unfortunately my opponent was very patient with their energy. I don't know what their secondary move is, but it's most likely a Brave Bird. It could be a Night Slash, and not many people run close combat on Sirfetch'd. It's a Brave Bird, so that instantly deletes my Dragonite. My plan is to wait out the switch timer and come in with Empoleon. I'll just farm down the Sirfetch'd, and if they throw a Leaf Blade, I don't need to shield because it's only neutral damage against my Empoleon. So this is going to hurt, but I can take it. So they have a Talonflame, and their third Pokemon is still anonymous. And they decide to come in with Talonflame. They didn't have any energy before they swapped out, so I will outpace them to throwing a charge move. I'm a little surprised. By bringing Talonflame, this could mean that the third Pokemon is weak to Empoleon. But it's actually a Venusaur, so I'm assuming that the logic behind that was they wanted me to use energy and they want to chip me down with Incinerates. That's the only way I could rationalize it. I'm not entirely sure if that's the way they wanted to do it. So I get the Drill Peck off. I need to swap out right away just because I know my Empoleon is not going to get to another charge move. I have to shield this, and I'm going to throw the Hydro Cannon right away. So I get this Hydro Cannon off, and because I am a Shadow Swampert, this will KO. I believe that if it was a regular Swampert, they would just barely survive, meaning that I would lose the matchup. So just one of the many examples why Shadow Swampert would be preferred in this specific type of situation. My next battle is against Joe Ankles, another former battle legend and a current expert player. Swampert into an Ampharos. Definitely a favorable matchup for myself, so I expect them to swap out. And they safe swap to a Snorlax. So I'm going to pause the video right here for a moment. So in this situation, my ideal play is to stay in with Swampert, either chip it down with Hydro Cannons or just play out the matchup entirely. The reason why I don't swap into Empoleon is because most Snorlaxes have superpower, so if they bait out my shields with Body Slam, I can easily lose that matchup. Dragonite is also not ideal either. Snorlax is very bulky and Dragonite is very fragile in Ultra Premier, so they can definitely win that matchup provided they play it out correctly. So my plan here is to stay in with Swampert and just chip it down. So I throw the Hydro Cannon. This is going to do a moderate amount of damage. They choose not to shield, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to throw a Hydro Cannon immediately. This doesn't KO, but this will leave them really low. So they need to decide whether they want to shield or preserve the HP. And they decide to let it go. As you can see, I tried to swap to Dragonite, hoping to catch a Body Slam, but we must have CMP'd. I'm going to let this Body Slam go. And I'm still going to swap out to Dragonite immediately. My plan was to Dragon Breath the Snorlax down before they can get to a move, but they just barely get to the Body Slam. But regardless, I'm still going to let it go. They choose to bring in Ampharos, which makes sense. I mean, they know I have a Shadow Swampert lead, so they could be prepared to sack it. I'm not going to be able to KO them with the Dragon Claw, so they don't really need to shield anything either. Now this is very questionable. They threw 5 Volt Switches, but they didn't throw a charge move. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe they overtapped, but we'll see. And they actually let it go, meaning they just wasted all that energy for nothing. I was very surprised. Maybe they were planning to just whittle me down with Volt Switches and have the Machamp farm down my Dragonite, but I still get to a Dragon Claw, and I do a lot of damage with these Dragon Breaths. They really add up against the Shadow Machamp. The logic behind this is to just absorb energy with my Swampert. I don't plan on shielding it. The Machamp is really low, and by forcing them to use this energy, I know that they're not going to be able to get to 3 Cross Chops. I have 2 shields, so meaning 1 Cross Chop for 1 shield, and they would need a third one to KO my Empoleon. So at this point, it's pretty much GG, and I'm not going to throw a charge move because they still had a shield. So yeah. Alright, moving on to my third match. And my third battle against a current expert is against Jamai. Shadow Swampert into a Shadow Venusaur. Very terrible matchup for myself, so I have to swap out immediately. So my safe swap in this situation is Empoleon. I know what some of you may be thinking. You know, Chan, why didn't you swap to Dragonite into the Venusaur? My general response to getting hard counter in the lead is to bring the middle ground Pokemon. Something that can play the matchup relatively decently, while at the same time not bringing my best response to the hard counter, which would be Dragonite. For example, let's say I bring in Dragonite and they swap out. If I lose my Dragonite immediately, my backline, which is Swampert and Empoleon, are very vulnerable to a Shadow Venusaur. So in this situation, I'm just going to play it out with Empoleon, shield if I need to, and try to get shields of theirs. So they definitely had a Frenzy Plant. They must have overfarmed slightly or just didn't tap the charge move in time. But I get the Drill Peck off, which is very fortunate. I get a shield. They throw a Frenzy Plant of their own. I need to shield this because technically I would survive, but if I let it go, then they'll just farm me down, and that would be not be ideal. So they get a Frenzy Plant off, and I'm going to shield this just to chip them down a bit more. And as you can see, right here, I made a huge mistake. I got very greedy with the overfarm, and I should have thrown my Drill Peck sooner. Now they just KO my Empoleon with a Frenzy Plant and I'm down in shield. But it's not all terrible, because what you're about to see, this mistake of mine actually turns out to be a small blessing. So I have a lot of energy, but unfortunately it goes to waste because I didn't throw a move. So now I bring in Dragonite, and they bring in a Galvantula. So the reason why I say my mistake was a blessing in disguise is because, hypothetically speaking, they could have played it out either two ways. Either shield the Venusaur to preserve swap, or they let it go and then just farm down my Empoleon with the Galvantula, and that would have been so detrimental. They could have, you know, gained a lot of energy. They could have came out with a move by the time they killed my Empoleon, so, you know, letting it go is actually not too terrible. I'm going to throw a Dragon Claw here, and obviously it doesn't KO the Galvantula, but it does a large amount of damage because Galvantula is very fragile. So they shield, perfectly fine. So they're going to throw a charge move. I expect it to be a discharge, but for some reason they throw a lunge, which is actually resisted, so I'm not exactly sure why. And they throw another charge move. I'm not exactly sure what the logic was behind that. They could have just went discharge and farm me down. They're energy dry right now. That's the second Volt Switch. And they could have definitely thrown a move right there. I was over farming, but they definitely could have thrown a lunge right there. Yeah, very questionable. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. Maybe they over-tapped. And they actually catch the Hydro Cannon with the Stun Fist, so it's a really well-timed swap on their part. But unfortunately, this is also a lose con for them, and you're going to see why. So it takes a Mudshots to get to the Earthquake. So because we're both energy dry, I can just eyeball my charge move button or just count it visually. And as long as I don't desync, as long as I throw on 8, I will win the CMP tie. So they had an Earthquake right there. I'm going to KO them with a Hydro Cannon. And I have enough for another Hydro Cannon after one Mudshot, and this is going to KO the Venusaur. So yeah, we both made mistakes this game. I feel like the opponent kind of threw the game, unfortunately. They definitely had it within their grasp, but yeah, it just, you know, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, myself included. So not gonna, you know, dwell too much on it. On to the next match. Shadow Swampert into an Abomasnow. Another unfavorable matchup for myself, but this is definitely much better than Venusaur, and it's playable. So what I like to do here is, of course my opponent doesn't know what my secondary move is. Obviously Hydro Cannon is gonna be one of the two, but they don't know that I have Earthquake. So I like to feign having a Sludge Wave by over-farming, and then I will, you know, pretend to throw it by trying to get some shields. As long as they have enough energy for a potential Energy Ball, I will always shield. Swampert is my most consistent DPS against the Abomasnow, and keeping shields up is definitely not ideal just because Abomasnow with shields is going to run through my entire backline. Like, it'll destroy my Dragonite, and it can do well against my Empoleon. They overfarmed a little, so this Hydro Cannon will KO. I expect a shield for them to preserve that energy. They do shield, and I immediately swap into Empoleon. The idea behind this is to absorb any energy and just sack my Empoleon. They threw a Weather Ball, which is kind of strange. They could have definitely threw an Energy Ball. And I'm just going to pause right here. So up until this moment, this exact moment, I was tapping my screen, and I'm still tapping my screen. But for some reason, the game decided to just desync and not register my taps. As you can see, like, my Empoleon just stopped moving and I'm not getting any energy. So that basically means that the Machamp is going to be able to get to the cross shot before I get to the Drill Peck. I was 3 waterfalls ahead, so I definitely should have made it there before they got to a move. And that definitely affects this matchup. I cannot afford to shield in this situation. If I shield, they just shield on their part and they farm me down. And then shieldless Dragonite against the Shadow Machamp, or, you know, my Swampert that has no energy would be in such big trouble. So unfortunately, you know, the lag kicked in, or desync, whatever you want to call it. and I gotta let this go. So I gotta wait out the switch timer, and I'm gonna bring in my Dragonite. I'm gonna proceed to farm it down as much as I can. So they're not going to get to another charge move. I expect them to Rock Slide right away, unless they swap out and bank some energy. But I'm going to shield here. And they actually throw a Cross Chop, which is actually very surprising. I was expecting the Rock Slide, but yeah, they go for the bait. So I immediately throw the Dragon Claw, and I get the shield, so I swap out immediately. And they swap out to Talonflame, which is a very questionable play. They get the third Incinerate off, so they have enough for a charge move. I decide to undercharge here, and there's a very specific reason why. So at this point in time, they do have enough for a charge move, but for some reason, they don't throw any energy. The logic behind undercharging was I was expecting them to KO me, so I was leaving enough health on the Talonflame so I could farm down with Dragonite, and then have a move ready for the Abomasnow. But then, as you can see, after the fourth Incinerate, they just stopped moving. I don't know if that was like, they wanted me to KO them, or they just lagged or desynced, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that small instance of lag benefited me heavily. I was able to store 2 Hydro Cannons, one for the Talonflame, and of course one for the Abomasnow. I win the CMP tie, so that means I'm going to take the game. Not the way I would like to win, obviously, but, you know, these things happen. They happen to me, I'm sure they've happened to you, and it's very frustrating. It can be very frustrating. So I KO the Abomasnow, and that's a wrap. It is a GG, and like at the same time it's not a GG. It's just like sometimes you win, but you feel like you lost sort of moments. And then on to the last match of the set. Shadow Swampert into a Bronzong. I'm going to assume it's an XL, so very favorable lead for myself. So they bring in Kingdra as a safe swap, so my response is Dragonite. It's my best response, and of course, I outpaced the Kingdra to a Dragon Claw before they get to an Outrage or Octazooka. So I get the first shield, and then they throw a charge move. So some people would ask me, when should I shield in this situation, or is it worth shielding? In this situation, I would say yes. I won't always shield against the Kingdra, it just varies from time to time. So in this specific situation, the Kingdra has a lot of HP. Hypothetically, let's say I don't shield, I can bring in my Swampert or my Empoleon. In most cases, I'll bring in my Empoleon, but this Kingdra has way too much HP to farm down. And because the waterfalls are double resisted because of its typing, water and dragon, there's no way it's like ideal or feasible. I need to chip it down further with Dragon Breath and hopefully get to another Dragon Claw. So that's my logic behind shielding my Dragonite right now. Even if I get debuffed by the Octazooka, it's definitely worth it to shield in this situation. They throw the Octazooka, which is expected. They get the attack drop, which is very unfortunate, but, you know, I get to the Dragon Claw, so that means if they don't shield, I still preserve my small switch advantage. I have 2 responses for the Bronzong. I just have to hope their third Pokemon doesn't wall my team. They bring in a fighter, and they bring in Machamp. So, of course, I have to bring in my own Swampert. I do have an energy lead. We CMP tie. I have to shield this for sure. So I'm going to get this Hydro Cannon off, which is very fortunate. Most likely going to pull the shield. And I do. So they get an extra counter through. That means that they are at the Cross Chop. I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon. They just barely survive. And at this point, I'm going to make sure I have a Hydro Cannon banked before I swap out. And now I swap to Empoleon. So Bronzong usually runs Psyshock and Bulldoze. If I get hit by a Bulldoze, it's fine. As we all know, Bulldoze is just a really terrible move. And even though it does super effective damage, it's nothing to be too concerned about. I'm going to throw the Hydro Cannon now. And fortunately I'm able to farm them down. At this point, the Machamp has to throw energy. If they let a waterfall through, it will instantly KO. So because they KO me, the waterfall damage doesn't register. But this is why I have the Hydro Cannon banked on my Swampert. Let's say I didn't. It would most likely be a tie because we would KO each other at the same time. And that was my last match of the set. So my very first set of the day, I went 5-0. And I climbed from 2790, which you're about to see, to 2863. Flaffy for my GBL reward, but not something I really need. I would prefer something else, but free XL is free XL, so I'm really glad that change was implemented into PvP. Gives us a reason to keep on battling. But, yeah, that was my set today. Afterwards, I proceeded to play my sets. I believe I went 2-3, 2-3 in the second and third set. I went 3-2 in my fourth set, and then I went 4-1 in my last set. So overall, I had a positive day. I believe I had a net gain of 40 points from when I started. So positive is positive. I'll take what I can get, especially considering that today was very laggy. I consider that a win, and it's always better to go positive rather than negative. So hopefully you enjoyed my matches. Right now, I'm just focusing on playing, what I think is good rather than what other people are playing. A lot of people are playing XL Pokemon, and I do have the option to max out a couple of my own, but I do enjoy the additional challenge. I want to try to I just want to try to hit Battle Legend with only using level 40 Pokemon, and then maybe after I hit Battle Legend, I'll max out a couple level 50s, or I'll wait until next season. I'm not entirely sure. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment if you have any questions or inquiries, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So thank you so much, and take care.